Have you ever wondered if being too kind could be ruining your life? In a world where kindness is often seen as a virtue to be pursued at all costs, it's easy to overlook the dangers of excessive generosity. What if I told you that by constantly putting others first, you may be setting yourself up for disappointment, burnout, and even exploitation? Today, we'll explore the fine line between genuine kindness and self-neglect. Drawing from ancient Stoicism and real-life examples, we will uncover 9 surprising ways that excessive kindness can lead to serious consequences. By the end of this video, you'll have a deeper understanding of how to maintain healthy boundaries while practicing kindness, how to avoid emotional exhaustion, and how to protect your own well-being. You'll also gain 6 actionable Stoic strategies to prevent people from taking advantage of you and to reclaim control over your life. Don't miss out, because knowing when and how to be kind without losing yourself in the process is a life-changing skill. 1. You run the risk of dependency. When you give too much of yourself, you risk creating an unhealthy dependency, both for yourself and for others. Stoicism teaches that we must remain in control of our own lives, not allowing external forces or people to dictate our happiness. But ask yourself, how often have you overextended your kindness only to find that others now rely on you more than they should? Perhaps you've been the one they always turn to, assuming you'll always be there to help, regardless of the cost to your own well-being. This is where the danger lies. Excessive kindness can trap you in a cycle where you feel obligated to keep giving, and others come to expect it. In this state of dependency, you may start to lose touch with your own needs, constantly prioritizing others. In Stoicism, balance and moderation are key. How can you live a virtuous life if you are constantly depleted, mentally and emotionally, by those who have become reliant on your kindness? Think about it. Are you offering help because it aligns with your principles, or because you feel compelled to please others? The distinction is critical. In Stoicism, we are reminded to focus on what is within our control, our own actions and thoughts, rather than the unpredictable expectations of others. If your generosity leads you to neglect yourself, are you truly being virtuous, or have you become a servant to others' needs? To break free from this unhealthy cycle, we must practice self-awareness and recognize when our kindness has tipped into overindulgence. Are you giving from a place of strength or from a place of emotional exhaustion? True strength, as the Stoics remind us, comes from self-mastery. Set clear boundaries to protect your energy and ensure that your kindness is not taken for granted. The next time someone asks for more than you can give, pause and reflect. Am I helping because it's the right thing to do, or because I'm afraid to say no? In the end, Stoicism guides us to give wisely, with discernment, ensuring that our acts of kindness do not turn into chains that bind us to others' expectations. As we move forward, consider this. While dependency is dangerous, it often stems from another deeper issue: unrealistic expectations. Let's explore how your kindness may be shaping false hopes, both for you and those around you. 2. You will have unrealistic expectations of others. Excessive kindness often leads to unrealistic expectations, both of others and ourselves. Have you ever found yourself giving generously to someone, only to feel disappointed when they didn't reciprocate the way you hoped? It's a common pitfall. In Stoicism, we are taught to give without expecting anything in return. Yet our human nature often craves acknowledgement, appreciation, or reciprocation. But when these expectations are unmet, what follows? Frustration, resentment, and a sense of betrayal. Consider for a moment the last time you felt let down by someone. Were they truly at fault, Or were you expecting more from them than they were willing or able to give? This is where Stoicism offers wisdom. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." In other words, it's not the other person's actions that hurt us. It's our expectation of how they should act that causes pain. When you are excessively kind, you might unconsciously expect others to mirror that kindness back to you. You give fully, assuming that when you need support, others will be there to lift you up. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone operates with the same level of generosity or selflessness. People are busy with their own lives, focused on their own problems. If you hinge your happiness on their responses, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. This is where emotional detachment, a key concept in Stoicism, becomes vital. The Stoics teach us to give freely and generously, but without attaching our emotional well-being to the actions of others. Ask yourself, are you giving because it aligns with your values, or because you hope to receive something in return? The difference is crucial. Giving with strings attached is a recipe for emotional turmoil. So, how can we maintain kindness without falling into the trap of unrealistic expectations? First, practice self-awareness. Before offering your help or resources, take a moment to reflect on your motivations. Are you helping from a place of genuine goodwill, or are you seeking validation? Second, remind yourself that others are not obligated to act in the ways you expect. In Stoicism, we focus on controlling our own actions, not the reactions of others. This mindset shift can save you from unnecessary disappointment. Lastly, manage your expectations in relationships by recognizing that everyone has their limitations. Your acts of kindness should come from a place of abundance, not from a need for reciprocity. When you understand and accept that people will not always meet your expectations, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of feeling let down. As you reflect on this, ask yourself, how much of your frustration in relationships stems from expecting too much of others? Are your acts of kindness truly selfless, or do you quietly hope for something in return? Recognizing these patterns will allow you to approach kindness with greater wisdom and emotional freedom. Next, we'll explore another hidden danger of excessive kindness, how it can lead others to take advantage of you and see you as an endless resource for their needs. Stay with me as we dive into the complexities of being seen as a giver and the risks it brings. 3. People will only want something from you. When you consistently offer kindness without boundaries, people will begin to see you as a resource rather than as an individual with your own needs and limitations. Have you noticed that the more you give, the more others expect from you? It's as if your generosity becomes the norm, and suddenly you find yourself in a position where people come to you only when they need something. This is a dangerous dynamic that can quickly lead to exploitation. Stoicism teaches us to be mindful of our actions and to give with intention. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reflected on the importance of maintaining balance in his personal relationships. He warned against becoming someone who is constantly giving without regard for his own well-being. After all, if you continue to give without boundaries, who will protect you from burnout? Think about your own life. How often do you say yes to requests, even when you feel drained? Do people assume you will always help because that's what you've always done? It's a hard realization, but people can become dependent on your kindness, assuming it's endless. But here's the question. What happens when you can't give anymore? What happens when your well runs dry? This is where Stoic wisdom becomes crucial. Stoicism encourages us to give with moderation, not to become a crutch for others. As Seneca advised, the greatest wealth is to live content with little. In the context of kindness, This means being content with giving what you can afford, emotionally, physically, and mentally, without overextending yourself. You should never feel compelled to give more than you can sustain, for doing so ultimately leads to resentment, exhaustion, and the erosion of your self-respect. But how can you stop this cycle of being taken advantage of? The answer lies in setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. Rather, they are guidelines that protect your energy and time. By saying no when necessary, you protect yourself from being used by those who only seek your help when it benefits them. Remember, Stoicism teaches that we must be the masters of our own time and energy. No one else can do this for you. Here's an exercise. The next time someone asks for your help, pause and ask yourself, am I giving because it aligns with my values or because I feel obligated? If it's the latter, practice saying no. This simple act of self-discipline will help you regain control of your life and prevent others from using you as a constant source of support. And now, a gentle reminder to stay with me through the rest of this journey. We're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover about the hidden risks of excessive kindness, and I promise that by the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to balance your generosity with your own needs. Keep watching, because the insights that follow may very well change how you approach relationships and self-care. 4. You run a significant risk of being called weak. Excessive kindness can lead to others perceiving you as weak or easily manipulated. When you are always ready to help, always quick to say yes, some people may start to think of you as someone who lacks strength and resolve. They may even begin to shift their responsibilities onto you, knowing you won't refuse. This is a subtle but dangerous shift, where your kindness is no longer seen as a virtue, but as a sign of weakness. Ask yourself, has your generosity ever been mistaken for fragility? Have people treated you as though your kindness meant you couldn't stand up for yourself? This is a common consequence of excessive giving. In Stoicism, inner strength and self-discipline are key to earning respect from others. When you set boundaries and remain firm in your values, people see you as someone who is in control of their life, not as someone who can be pushed around. The problem with being overly kind is that it often comes with a fear of saying no. But as we discussed earlier, saying no is not only a way to protect yourself, it's also a way to earn respect. When others see that you are willing to assert your boundaries, they will begin to understand that your kindness is a choice, not a weakness. Marcus Aurelius often spoke about the importance of maintaining personal dignity and strength in the face of external pressures. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is especially relevant when it comes to kindness. Your ability to maintain control over your actions and to decide when and how to help others is a sign of true strength. But what happens when you let others treat you as weak? Over time, they will continue to exploit your kindness, and you'll find yourself taking on more than you can handle, both emotionally and physically. This leads to exhaustion, resentment, and a loss of self-respect. The key is to strike a balance between kindness and self-respect, to ensure that your generosity is not mistaken for submission. In the next section, we'll explore how excessive kindness can lead to even greater dangers, how it can foster dependency, both for you and for those around you. 5. Your priorities will be trampled upon. When you give too much of yourself to others, your own priorities are often the first casualty. Have you ever noticed how easily your personal goals fall by the wayside when you're constantly catering to the needs of those around you? In the pursuit of kindness, you may start to neglect what truly matters to you. This is a silent danger of excessive kindness. Your own life begins to take a back seat to everyone else's demands. In Stoicism, there is a clear emphasis on living in accordance with your own principles and values. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to be diligent in our own tasks, stating, "At every hour, give your full concentration, as a Roman and a man, to carrying out the task in hand with strict and simple dignity, affection, freedom and justice, and to giving yourself relief from all other thoughts." But how can you fulfill this Stoic principle if your attention is constantly divided among the needs of others? Think about your daily routine. How many times have you set out to work on something important to you, only to be interrupted by someone asking for a favor or your help? It's easy to say yes in the moment, especially when you want to maintain relationships and avoid conflict. But over time, these small sacrifices add up, and you may find yourself looking back on days, weeks, or even years, wondering where your time went. How much of your life has been spent chasing other people's goals instead of your own? This is why Stoicism encourages us to guard our time and energy as precious resources. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When you fail to set boundaries, your priorities are inevitably trampled upon, and you risk losing the very things that make your life meaningful. Acts of kindness should never come at the cost of your own happiness or self-fulfillment. So how do you strike a balance between helping others and maintaining your own path? The answer lies in clear, assertive communication. Make your priorities known to the people in your life. It's not selfish to explain that you have goals too, and that your time is valuable. In fact, it's an act of self-respect. The Stoics teach us that living a good life means staying true to our own purpose. If your acts of kindness derail your progress, then it's time to reassess where your generosity is directed. Here's a challenge for you. The next time someone asks for your help, pause and reflect on your own needs first. Are you sacrificing something important to assist them? If so, consider how you can offer support without completely sidelining your own priorities. This practice will help you maintain a balance between kindness and self-care. Before we move on, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever felt like your own goals were pushed aside because you were too focused on helping others? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm curious to see how others have navigated this delicate balance. Now that we've explored how excessive kindness can trample your priorities, let's dive into another critical issue: the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Without boundaries, you risk not only losing yourself, but also becoming a target for those who would take advantage of your generosity. 6. Maintain healthy boundaries to protect your well-being. Boundaries are essential to protecting your mental and physical well-being, yet excessive kindness often leads to poor boundary setting. How often have you found yourself saying yes to requests that leave you feeling overwhelmed or drained? When you give without limits, you run the risk of sacrificing your own health and happiness in the process. In Stoicism, setting boundaries is a form of self-discipline. The Stoics taught that we should focus on what we can control: our actions, our choices, our reactions. But when you allow others to dictate your time and energy, you lose control of these vital aspects of your life. Think of boundaries as a protective fence around your inner peace. Without them, others can easily step into your personal space and drain your resources, leaving you with little to sustain yourself. Have you ever felt guilty for setting a boundary or saying no? This is a common struggle for those who are naturally kind-hearted. But Stoicism teaches us that saying no is not a selfish act. It's an act of self-preservation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." This reminds us that we must prioritize our own actions and well-being above the opinions of others. Reflect for a moment on a recent time when you felt overextended. Did you agree to help someone even though you were already exhausted? Did you say yes because you felt it was expected? even though it didn't align with your own needs? These are the moments when boundaries are most critical. By practicing self-awareness, you can recognize when your generosity is pushing you toward burnout. How can you start setting healthier boundaries? First, learn to listen to your inner voice. When you feel hesitation or discomfort about saying yes, that's your mind and body signaling that a boundary is being crossed. Pay attention to these feelings and honor them by responding with a firm but kind no. Second, communicate your boundaries clearly. Let people know what you are and aren't comfortable with. By being upfront, you prevent misunderstandings and protect your well-being. Lastly, remember that setting boundaries doesn't mean closing yourself off from others. In fact, it's the opposite. Healthy boundaries allow you to give from a place of strength, ensuring that you have the energy and peace of mind to continue being kind without compromising yourself. As we move forward, let's take a look at another potential consequence of excessive kindness: surrounding yourself with people who only value you for what you can give, rather than for who you are. 7. Surrounded by many, but only supported by the opportunistic. One of the harshest realities of excessive kindness is that it often attracts opportunists, people who are more interested in what you can offer than in who you are as a person. Have you ever felt surrounded by people, yet strangely alone? This is a common experience for those who are overly generous. The more you give, the more people flock to you, but not all of them have your best interests at heart. Stoicism teaches us to be discerning in our relationships, to invest our time and energy in those who genuinely support us, rather than those who merely seek to take advantage. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means that while you may not always be able to control who comes into your life, you can certainly control how you engage with them. Ask yourself, how many of the people in your life are there for you in your times of need? How many would still be around if you stopped offering your time, energy, or resources? This isn't about being cynical, but about being realistic. It's important to recognize that not everyone will appreciate or reciprocate your kindness. Some will see it as an opportunity to take advantage of your generosity. When you find yourself surrounded by people who only want something from you, it's time to reassess your relationships. In Stoicism, we are reminded to maintain relationships that are based on mutual respect and sincerity. True friends will support you, not just when you're giving, but also when you need to receive. Surround yourself with those who value you for who you are, not just for what you can provide. But how can you tell the difference between genuine friends and opportunists? The Stoics would advise observing their actions over time. Do these people stick around when you're going through tough times? Do they offer support even when you have nothing to give? These are the hallmarks of a true friend. If you realize that your circle is filled with opportunists, don't despair. It's never too late to build stronger, more meaningful connections. Start by setting boundaries with those who take more than they give, and focus your energy on cultivating relationships with those who truly care about you. As we continue, let's explore the hidden danger of excessive kindness that often goes unnoticed: the risk of developing unhealthy addictions as a way to cope with the emotional toll of constant giving. 8. You could end up falling into addiction. Excessive kindness, when unchecked, can lead to a dangerous cycle of emotional burnout, which may, in turn, push you toward unhealthy coping mechanisms such as addiction. Addiction is not limited to substances like alcohol or drugs. It can also manifest in behaviors like constantly seeking approval or always being the one to rescue others. Stoicism, which teaches the importance of moderation and self-control, warns against falling into patterns that enslave the mind and body. But how does kindness relate to addiction? When you give too much of yourself, you might start feeling emotionally drained. Perhaps you find yourself giving out of a sense of obligation, or because you want to avoid disappointing others. Over time, this constant giving, without replenishing your own emotional reserves, can leave you feeling empty. And when we feel empty, we often seek something to fill that void. This is where the risk of addiction comes in. Ask yourself, do you ever find solace in behaviors that temporarily numb the exhaustion from giving too much? Perhaps it's turning to food, alcohol, or even excessive time spent on social media as a way to escape the emotional fatigue. In Stoicism, there is a strong emphasis on controlling what is within our power, and addiction, whether to substances or behaviors, takes that control away from us. The danger lies in the fact that many addictions begin subtly. You may start to rely on small habits to cope, such as a nightly glass of wine or hours spent scrolling through your phone, and before you know it, these habits become a regular part of your routine. The Stoics teach us to be vigilant with our actions and to be mindful of what we allow into our lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is a reminder that true power comes from within, not from external sources of comfort. But how do you break free from the cycle of overgiving and unhealthy coping mechanisms? The first step is to recognize when your kindness is leading you toward emotional depletion. Be honest with yourself. Are you giving because it feels right, or because you feel obligated? Are you turning to external comforts to escape the burden of constantly helping others? If so, it's time to reassess your approach. Stoicism offers practical tools to combat the tendency to overgive and fall into addiction. One such tool is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This involves mentally preparing yourself for potential hardships, including the emotional toll of excessive giving. By anticipating these challenges, you can equip yourself with the strength to face them without turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms. Additionally, cultivating self-awareness through journaling or regular reflection, as the Stoics did, can help you identify when your behaviors are veering into unhealthy territory. Ask yourself each day, am I acting in alignment with my values, or am I seeking approval or escape through my actions? This level of introspection can help you course-correct before the consequences of addiction take hold. As we move into the final hidden consequence of excessive kindness, let's explore how this generosity can make others suspicious of your motives. You may be trying to help, but not everyone will see it that way. 9. You may arouse suspicion. In a world where true generosity is often rare, being overly kind can sometimes arouse suspicion rather than appreciation. Have you ever experienced moments where your acts of kindness were met with doubt or mistrust? You might be thinking that this is an unjust outcome. After all, you're only trying to help. But this reaction is more common than you may realize, especially in environments where excessive kindness is seen as unusual or even manipulative. Stoicism teaches us that the opinions of others should not dictate our actions. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to act according to his own principles, regardless of how others might perceive him. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. This quote from Aurelius is a poignant reminder that we cannot control how others interpret our actions, but we can control our integrity. Why might others be suspicious of your kindness? One reason is that many people are accustomed to transactional relationships, where acts of kindness come with strings attached. When you offer help without expecting anything in return, it may disrupt their worldview. They might wonder, what does this person want from me? Or what's in it for them? This suspicion can be disheartening, especially when your intentions are pure. But how should a Stoic handle this? The answer lies in maintaining consistency. Over time, people will see that your kindness comes from a place of virtue rather than manipulation. Epictetus taught that we should be indifferent to the judgments of others as long as we are acting in accordance with nature and reason. If others question your motives, it is their burden, not yours, to resolve that doubt. You must remain steadfast in your principles. Have you ever held back from being kind out of fear that people might misinterpret your intentions? While this hesitation is understandable, Stoicism reminds us that we are responsible for our actions, not how others perceive them. If you are acting from a place of true virtue, you have nothing to fear. Let your actions speak for themselves, and with time, people will come to see your intentions for what they are. However, it's important to recognize that not everyone will change their perception of you. Some people will always be suspicious, no matter how transparent and consistent you are in your actions. This is where emotional detachment, a key principle of Stoicism, becomes essential. You cannot allow their mistrust to shake your commitment to living a virtuous life. Continue to act with integrity and let go of the need for external validation. As we have seen, kindness, when practiced in excess and without boundaries, can quickly lead to unintended consequences, whether it's fostering dependency, inviting opportunism, or even pushing you toward emotional exhaustion and addiction. Excessive generosity can have a real impact on your life. But the solution is not to stop being kind. It's to practice kindness with wisdom and moderation, as the Stoics have long taught. Stoicism reminds us that the key to a balanced life is in setting boundaries, being mindful of our actions, and remaining true to our own values. If you've ever struggled with feeling like you give too much or that others take advantage of your kindness, now is the time to reflect on how you can regain control. Remember, it's not selfish to say no when necessary. It's an act of self-respect. As we close, I encourage you to reflect on your own experiences with kindness. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by giving too much? How have you managed to balance your generosity with your own well-being? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and see how others in our community have navigated this complex aspect of life. If you found value in this exploration of Stoicism and kindness, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. By doing so, you'll be supporting the spread of wisdom that can help others navigate life's challenges with more clarity and purpose. Don't forget to share this video with anyone who might benefit from it. And thank you for watching. Wishing you strength, balance, and wisdom on your journey toward a life of meaningful kindness. Until next time, live with purpose, live with intention, and as always, stay true to yourself.